Have you ever had someone look you dead in the eyes and tell you that you'll never be enough? That you're nothing more than a stain on their perfect family name? I have. My name is Alex. And the man who said those words to me was my own father. It was a cold Tuesday evening in November. I was 22 years old, standing in the marble hallway of the house I grew up in, a house that suddenly felt like it belonged to a stranger. Dad was at the top of the staircase, holding a glass of whiskey like it was a trophy. My stepmother, Claire, stood behind him, with that fake sad smile she always wore when she was about to win. "Alex," he said, voice flat and cold, "pack your things. You're out." I laughed at first, thought it was a joke. "Dad, come on. What are you talking about?" He didn't blink. "You heard me. You've been nothing but a disappointment. No degree, no money, no future. You're too broke to even sit at our table anymore." My little sister, Mia, the only person in that house who still loved me, started crying behind him. Claire put a hand on her shoulder like she was comforting her, while squeezing just hard enough to keep her quiet. I felt the floor disappear under me. I had dropped out of college a year before because Dad stopped paying tuition. He said, "Real men don't need school. They build things." But when I asked to work at Harrington Logistics, the family trucking empire he built from nothing, he laughed in my face. "You," he said, "you couldn't even manage a lemonade stand." That night, he gave me until morning to leave. I walked out with one duffel bag, $400 in my bank account, and the sound of the front door locking behind me still ringing in my ears. As I stood on the driveway watching the mansion lights go dark one by one, I made a promise to myself. One day they would regret this, and I was going to make sure the whole world watched when it happened. The first month was pure survival. I slept on friends' couches. Then when those ran out, I slept in my beat-up 2003 Honda Civic. I took any job I could find, night shifts at a warehouse, delivering pizzas, cleaning offices at 3 a.m. Every dollar went into a jar labeled, "Come back." People who used to call me Mr. Harrington now didn't even look at me when I handed them their change. But something strange happened while I was invisible. I started listening. Truck drivers at the warehouse talked about routes, fuel costs, contracts. I heard them complain about delays, bad dispatchers, and one name that kept coming up over and over like a curse: Harrington Logistics, my father's company. They're the biggest, one driver told me while we unloaded boxes at 2 a.m., but they treat us like garbage. Late pay, broken, trucks, no respect. I wrote everything down in a cheap notebook, every complaint, every weakness, every name of a customer who was sick of being treated badly. I didn't know it yet, but I was building a map that would one day lead me straight into the heart of my father's empire and tear it apart from the inside. 6 months after I was thrown out, I was working a night shift at a 24-hour diner to make rent on a tiny studio that smelled like old pizza. That's when Victor walked in. Victor Russo. He was 68 years old, silver hair, sharp eyes, and a quiet kind of power that made people lower their voices when he sat down. He ordered black coffee and watched me clean tables for 20 minutes before he spoke. "You're Richard Harrington's boy, aren't you?" I froze. Nobody had said my father's name to my face in months. I nodded slowly. Victor smiled, not warm, but knowing. "I've been waiting for you, Alex." Turns out Victor used to be my dad's very first business partner 25 years ago. They started Harrington Logistics together in a garage with 2 trucks. But Dad betrayed him, forced him out, took everything, left Victor with nothing but a handshake and a lie. Victor rebuilt quietly, started a tiny regional trucking company no one took seriously. But he never forgot, and he never forgave. That night, over burnt diner coffee, Victor made me an offer. Come work for me, learn everything, and one Day, we take back what was stolen from both of us. I didn't say yes right away, but deep down, I already knew this was the beginning. For the next 4 years, I disappeared. No social media, no contact with my old life. I became Victor's shadow. He taught me everything: how contracts really work, how to read between the lines of fuel prices, how to make drivers loyal to you instead of a paycheck. But most importantly, he taught me patience. Revenge isn't loud, Alex, he told me one night while we fixed a busted trailer in the rain. It's quiet, it waits, and when it strikes, they never see it coming. Meanwhile, I watched my father's company from a distance. I saw the news articles about record profits, the family photos at charity galas, Dad smiling with Claire and Mia like I never existed. I saw my little sister grow up without me, and every time I felt the anger rise, I turned it into fuel. By year 4, Victor's little company, Russo Regional, had grown from 8 trucks to 47, and I had become the best operations manager he ever had. But I still wasn't ready. Not yet. Then came the phone call that changed everything. It was Mia. She was 19 now, away at college. Alex, I'm so sorry I didn't call sooner. I was scared. Dad said if I contacted you, he'd stop paying for school. I told her it was okay, that I wasn't mad at her. Then she started crying. They're selling the company, Alex. Dad and Claire, they're taking a huge offer from a corporate group. They're walking away with hundreds of millions. All the drivers, all the people who built this, they'll be fired or worse. I felt my blood turn to ice. After everything my father had done, he was going to cash out and disappear. Leave thousands of families without jobs. Leave the empire he always said was our legacy in the hands of strangers who didn't care. That night, I sat in the dark and made a decision. No more waiting. It was time. Victor and I sat down with his lawyer, his accountant, and 3 silent investors who hated my father almost as much as we did. The corporate group trying to buy Harrington. Logistics? They were sloppy, greedy. They hadn't done their homework. We had. We knew every weak spot in Dad's company. Old trucks needing replacement. Drivers ready to jump ship, customers who secretly hated being strong-armed. And most importantly, we knew the exact number. The corporate group was offering $380 million. Victor looked at me across the table. How much do you want to hurt him, Alex? I didn't even blink. I want to take everything he loves and make it mine. So we made a counteroffer. $385 million. All cash. But there was one condition. The sellers, my father and Claire, had to sign a non-compete clause so tight they could never work in trucking again. And the deal had to close in 30 days. We knew they couldn't resist. Greed always wins. The closing was set in a glass conference room downtown. I walked in wearing a $4,000 suit Victor bought. My father walked in wearing the same arrogant smirk he had the night he threw me out. He didn't recognize me at first. Then his eyes widened. Alex. Claire actually dropped her designer purse. Dad recovered first. Forced a laugh. What is this? Some kind of joke? You're with Russo now? That fossil can't even. Victor smiled calmly. Actually, Richard, Alex is a majority owner of Russo Regional now. I signed the company over to him last year. The room went dead silent. Dad's lawyer started sweating. I slid the contract across the table. $385 million. Non-compete for life. Or watch the corporate deal fall apart and his company die slowly anyway. Dad stared at the signature line. His hand shook. Claire whispered, Richard, we have to sign. We have no choice. For the first time in my life, I watched my father look small. He signed. I signed. And just like that, Harrington Logistics became mine. 3 months later, I renamed the company. YAR United. The YAR stood for Alex Russo. Every driver who had been loyal got a $10,000 bonus and a raise. Every customer who switched to us got better rates and better service. My father's empire didn't die. It became better than he ever made it, and he had to watch. From his mansion that was now too expensive to keep. From the country club where people whispered when he walked by. Claire left him 6 months later. Took half of what little he had left. Mia moved in with me. She cried the first night, not because she was sad, but because she was proud. A year after the takeover, I got a call. It was him. He wanted to meet. Just once. I agreed. We met at the same diner where Victor found me. All those years ago. He looked 20 years older. No expensive watch. No tailored suit. Just a broken man drinking bad coffee. He didn't yell. Didn't curse. He just said, I was wrong about you. I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. I just looked at him and said, you didn't just throw me out, Dad. You created me. Then I left. Approximate 1,300 words. So here's the truth nobody tells you about. Revenge. It doesn't fix the hole in your heart. Taking everything from my father didn't bring back the years I lost. It didn't make the nightmares stop, but it did something more important. It proved something to myself, that the people who hurt you the most don't get to decide who you become. You do. I still keep that $400 jar on my desk, the one I saved when I had nothing. It reminds me every day. Rock bottom is in the end. Sometimes it's just a foundation you build everything else on. If you're watching this and someone has told you you're not enough, if someone threw you away like you were nothing, remember my story. Remember that the same hands that pushed you down can one day own the entire game. Thank you for listening to my story. If it helped even one of you, then every tear, every cold night, every doubt was worth it. This is Alex, and I'm just getting started.